Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to All We Do Is Talk. Football is back. Yes, sir. We're going to be talking a review of week one and also talking about the games coming up for week two. I'm here with my day ones, Isaiah and Moody. How we doing today?
What's good, y'all? How y'all
Doing great, man. Ready to overreact to some week one football.
Yes, sir. Overreacting to week one is a great thing. All right, so let's start off with the Thursday night game coming up this week. Giants, Washington. Let's first look back at their abysmal week one. Let's start with the Giants.
Well, Isaiah, you can go ahead and get into that as the resident New York Giant football fan.
Well, it was a disappointing game. Offensively, we protected the passer better than we usually do. Run blocking wise, we opened up zero holes for anybody, and we really didn't move anybody off the ball. We got dominated in the line of scrimmage. And then defensively, we were terrible on third down. Great press man blitz calls on first and second down, soft zone on third to give up long third down completions. Teddy Bridgewater was dazzling, but we'll move on. We'll talk about him later when we get to the Broncos. Defensively, though, the Giants looked pretty. They looked like they were playing week one defense, bad tackling, of course. And offensively, they looked like the Giants' offense. And I will say, I thought they should have thrown the ball to Kenny Galladay a little bit more, but that's just me. He made contested catches. He made at least 3 highly tough contested catches. I'd get him involved more. Come on, Daniel, get to it. He missed camp, so that's kind of what goes along with that. Sterling Shepard had a big game, and he looked really good for the Giants. So game ball to Sterling Shepard, even though no one deserves a game ball. And defensively, they need to start running laps. Joe Judge gonna get them. They're gonna get them.
All right, so what you got? Y'all got a gigantic week two divisional road matchup coming up against the Washington football team, who took a very, very difficult L to the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday at 1:00. So Chargers rarely get to come to the East Coast at a 1:00 game and get a W, but especially against a defense like that. But they managed to get the road win, especially thanks to Mr. Antonio Gibson and that abysmal fumble inside his own 5-yard line that basically handed the Chargers the football game. And we also know the big change for the Washington football team this week is Ryan Fitzpatrick is on IR, and Old Dominion's own Taylor Heineke will be starting at quarterback for the Washington football team, which adds to the intrigue to this podcast, definitely. Eric, you got any thoughts on how you think this game's going to go?
Or how the Giants and Washington football team did last week.
I think the Giants was definitely a surprise. I mean, you don't expect a blowout. I mean, that was like a wire to wire.
Eric, if we really think about it, was it a surprise?
It wasn't.
Or were people just drinking the Kool-Aid of the New York Giants?
It wasn't a blowout. They were down. They were down.
I didn't expect the Giants' offense to be great at all, but I didn't expect the Broncos to come out and drop. Well, it was a shutout in the first quarter, but then consistently just put up points in the rest of the quarters and have Teddy be the way he was, 28 out of 36. I mean, averaging 9 yards a throw.
The Teddy Bridgewater was outstanding. He looked like a top flight quarterback in that game against the Giants. And the secondary had a difficult time covering. The pass rush was not getting home on the third and longs, which allowed Teddy Bridgewater to make plays.
No, he was escaping the pass rush. That's the bigger problem.
Bridgewater ain't somebody who's just going to be maneuvering the pocket with like elite level. So if the pass rush not getting home, it's not getting home.
Nah, his biggest play to the touchdown to Tim Patrick, right? That's where the game flipped. They scored a touchdown right before right at the clock hit 0.
Right where y'all tried to snap Jerry Judy's leg.
Teddy Bridgewater avoided the sack, ooped the guy, and then threw the touchdown. And that's when it became 10. That's when it became 14. No, it became 10-7. And then the Daniel Jones fumble was the last nail in the coffin. That was unfortunate. But, look at Daniel Jones' numbers, 22 for 37, 267, 12 yards per completion. The Giants' passing offense was the best thing they had going for them. That's why they lost the game.
I mean, let's just say y'all did have a lot of passing success on the final drive of the football game when the game was well out of hand.
The last 2 drives were both garbage time.
Y'all was down 27-7.
And they looked about the same, though, because they kept moving. Because when it was 21-7, they had that last drive to go down to the goal line with about 5 minutes left, and they went 4 and out. I mean, they went 4 downs and out on the goal line. So if they had scored on that drive, which 4 shots into the end zone, I'd like them to score on that drive, it's going to be tough. But anything? What about Washington? They looked weak on defense last week.
Washington's their defense didn't look that bad, especially considering that they couldn't get pressure on Justin Herbert at all. Rashawn Slater looks like a super. That's what they literally drafted Rashawn Slater because he's known for blocking Chase Young. That's exactly what he did. It translated right to the NFL level. He shut Chase Young down the entire game, didn't give him a single pressure, and Justin Herbert had all day to throw, but they still only scored 20 points. They did force a turnover in the red zone. They kept them in the game as well. It's not their fault that Antonio Gibson gave the ball right back. But overall, I thought Washington football team's defense looked pretty good. Not great. It wasn't the pass rush definitely underwhelmed, but overall, I thought they did a good job limiting the points that the Chargers are capable of scoring.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I picked up, there were a couple of passing situations on third down for the Chargers that Chase Young just wasn't on the field. Like there were a couple of third and longs or clear passing situations where your number 2 overall pick and your most dominant pass rusher was not on the field. I don't know if that's because he needed a breather from the first 2 plays or if it's a coaching decision, but you need number 99 on the field in clear passing situations. Yeah, I mean, Taylor Heineke, I mean, he had an efficient 11 for 15. He didn't turn it over. I mean, he's going to be all right. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a world breaker or anything, but I think he can definitely do the job for the brand that Washington wants to play.
This is the Giants. We eat up backup quarterbacks. We blew it one time. We won't blow it a second time. Taylor Heineke, you're in for the game of your life. You're going to see shit you've never seen before. And the defense is going to be upset because they got roasted up. Their offense will probably keep us in the game long enough for all offense to fall into the points, hopefully.
Both of these teams are going to be relying on their defenses to come out here and control the game and limit the other team's offense enough so their terrible offenses can find a way to get the ball to the end zone. Just over under total of the weekend at 40.5. So like everyone understands that this isn't going to be very pretty football with the first Thursday night game of the year. You know, football is back when ugly Thursday night football is back. But who's the favorite here? I think
Washington home favorite by field goal.
Washington -3. So like they basically believe that these teams are basically even. I think the Ryan Fitzpatrick injury probably affects that scoreboard a lot. But the Giants swept the Washington football team last year, regardless of who, and the year before, regardless of who's been at quarterback. So it's not like it's not like in the division in the NFC East matchup. It's not like any team should be a massive favorite here. But I guess I will prefer Daniel Jones over Taylor Heineke.
Yes,
I guess. But you guys were so disappointing last week that I would fade this. If you're betting, I prefer to fade this. That's just my opinion. But if I have to pick a winner, I would probably take the New York Football Giants money line because they'll probably win the game close.
Eric, you go ahead, and I'll get out my last bit of disappointments.
Well, I'll go Washington because, and I'm going to lay the number. And just a disclaimer for people listening later on in the week, these lines we are recording on Tuesday, so these lines can change. But I will lay the number with the Washington football team because this pass rush going up against that O-line, I think will feast. And Daniel Jones will have a rough time waiting for his receivers to get open with Chase Young on his back.
All right, I'm going to the game. So, and for my birthday, the Giants never won on my birthday. So I'm not very high on this prediction, but I predict that the Giants will keep the streak alive, take the points. Let me see, it's 40?
40.5.
Take the over.
Yeah, Giants I'll take the over as well. I'll take the over.
Giants
under.
Giants win 21-20. And barely escape the Washington football team in the year 2021.
I feel like this could be a 13-10 game. Like I really feel like it could be one of those defensive touchdown.
I believe in the Saquon Barkley's, Terry McLaurin,
Saquon's averaged like a yard in a cloud of dust in this last 4 or 5 games.
2.5. It's 2.5. But yeah, so moving on. I've got Giants 21-21. Take the points. Take the over.
I'll take Giants 17-14. I'll take the under.
I'll take Washington -3, and I'll take the over.
All right. So moving on, we've got a pretty interesting game between two teams that won in week 1. We've got the Las Vegas Raiders coming off their big Monday Night Football win, traveling to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I believe had the most impressive victory of week 1. How we feel about last week? So we just got finished watching that crazy Raiders game last night, so we might as well start there for sure.
I think we got to be careful not to overrate the Raiders after what was admittedly a very impressive football win last night.
Eric, we both picked the covers.
The Ravens lost that game a lot more than the Raiders.
I told you they would. I
didn't know Lamar Jackson would just go give the game up twice. Just give the game away. Just like, no, we ain't complete control. And then Lamar said, "No, I'll finish it. I'll make sure. I don't want it." He didn't want no parts of winning that football game, and that's gonna sting for the Ravens. That's a blown opportunity for them.
They don't make the playoffs. Yeah.
But Derek Carr, I got to give Derek Carr a round of applause for what he pulled off in the second half and overtime. He was terrific. 2 big-time throws with 30 seconds left and no timeouts to get him in the field goal range. Hit throws in coverage. He was unbelievable. Josh Jacobs ran his ass off as well. Their defense stepped up and made plays when they needed them to keep them in the game and to eventually basically win the game for them. Carl Nassib, Max Crosby, they were getting after Lamar Jackson. So I think it was a very impressive win for the Raiders, but I think that was more Ravens playing with their food and then just giving it away late because the Ravens have a hard time winning in clutch moments.
While I do believe the Raiders are a better team than most, and I did pick them to win that game, they were in the right place at the right time. The Ravens were coming off all those injuries, and they practically outplayed them, barring 2 bad Lamar Jackson plays that were turnovers, which turnovers get you beat. And but it's week 1, so Raiders are. I'm surprised people are shocked because the Raiders win 8 games every year for the last couple seasons. So like people gonna lose to them, and their offensive line still looked good. Leatherwood looked good. Colton Miller looked good. Josh Jacobs looked good.
They settled down as the game went on.
Darren Waller, I didn't think he had a great game, and he still finished with 10 for 130.
I don't know what you mean by didn't have a great game.
He had 19 targets and only caught 10 balls.
I mean, the Ravens defense is generally very good against tight ends as well.
He had Marlon Humphrey
guarding him. That's respect right there for a tight end to be getting the number 1 cornerback. So like, it's not like his matchup was easy, but when they called on him to make plays, he was making plays.
Anything else about Vegas, Eric, you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would even say watching that game, like they still could have targeted Darren Waller more. There were still some plays where he was open. Like
he had 20 targets.
You could throw him the ball every time. That's how much of a mismatch.
They should throw the ball more to the receivers. And you see like they did last night.
After Darren Waller starts taking all the coverage away, you can get the ball to those guys.
Like there was one play where the seam was just busted open. He was wide open, and Derek Carr dished it down to his check, which would have added another 30 yards to him. Glad we didn't talk about that trade. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to overreact to the Raiders. I mean, the Ravens are still trying to find themselves with these injuries and still trying to find a running game, which is their emphasis on their offense, and losing their 2 top running backs definitely hurts them more than most teams would. But yeah, I definitely think the Ravens lost that game more than the Raiders won it. Glad I got the cover. Hell, you could have even gotten a money line, but for the Ravens, I mean, I think they're going to be just fine. I mean, it's going to be harder for them to win the division now, I think. But I think they're now like a borderline playoff team. But yeah, let's go. Who else?
Yeah, we just got to get the Ravens time to get healthy, but we can move on to
Pittsburgh side.
The Raiders' opponent, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I did pick the Buffalo Bills to win that game. I'll definitely admit that, but people were way too low on the Pittsburgh Steelers going into this season for whatever reason.
I'm still fading them. They got to win.
I know Ben still doesn't look good. He has to throw the ball 10 yards past the line of scrimmage in like 15 games, but that defense, man, that defense is good. That defense is more than good enough to carry that football team.
But let's be real. If there wasn't for another bad punter getting finessed this weekend.
I mean, Pittsburgh's going to make plays when they need to make. This is Pittsburgh we're talking about. When Pittsburgh need a play to get made, they make the play, and you know they're gonna have a penalty advantage.
I bet y'all don't know out there that Pittsburgh had the least amount of total offensive yards this weekend.
They didn't need them. They didn't need them.
Only Pittsburgh didn't need any offensive
and went on the 23-0 run. That's Pittsburgh football.
Buffalo outplayed Pittsburgh this whole game until they did what Cleveland
really
did in
for
their
a
game.
half.
No, they were pretty dominant into the third, in my opinion. But after the sack strip, because Buffalo throws the ball way too much, so they let a player like TJ Watt become a problem in the game because you're giving him more opportunities to rush the passer. He ran down Josh Allen, got him behind. It was a tough day for the sack strips. A lot of them happening. But after the block punt, and then was returned for a touchdown easily. That's it. That game week 1, game over. We special teams can single-handedly cost you games with blunders like that.
Absolutely.
But the Buffalo Bills defense looked really good, which makes me question how good Pittsburgh's offense is because they still won, and nobody wins with smoke and mirrors like Pittsburgh. But Buffalo outplayed them. Their offense looked good. It spread it down the red zone a couple times. It's week 1, so defense is always ahead of offense. I'm still fading the Steelers, but now that the Ravens are all banged up and they're starting to choke away a couple of wins already, it's a big game for Pittsburgh because if they lose this game, they're right where Baltimore was.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big game. Anything about Pittsburgh else? Anything else about Pittsburgh, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not overreacting to their Bills win because I do agree that the Bills outplayed them. And with the Bills defense not being a game changer part of their team, holding Pittsburgh's offense to under 300 yards total, I think is big.
That doesn't matter to beating Pittsburgh. Beating Pittsburgh is when can you score points on that defense?
Yeah, but I do love the TJ Watt, Melvin Ingram, Cameron Hayward.
No, Melvin Ingram looked really
Who let
good.
Pittsburgh get Melvin Ingram? Like, no one needed an edge. Pittsburgh can just go replace their edge right away. No problem. Just plug and play. Yeah, but they got another guy, Alex Highsmith, who's already doing the job anyway.
Ingram was on free agency for a while, so it's not like they went out and beat everyone. So everyone had a chance to pick him up. That's how good teams stay good.
Their special teams did the job for them on the day.
Mm-hmm.
But so let's pick
Fred. -5.5 for Pittsburgh. Over under 47.
Well, let me go first because I've already told this to Isaiah, but this is my lock of the week. Pittsburgh's nemesis, the Vegas Raiders, will get the W this Sunday. Take the money line. The Vegas Raiders are going to ride high from the momentum of knocking off one AFC North team, taking it into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's going to have a little bit of a letdown after a big win against Buffalo. And I think Derek Carr comes in and steals one because Ben Roethlisberger's arm may fall off.
So you're going to take Pittsburgh. So you're going to take the money line, but you'll take the cover over under. How you feel about that?
What's the over under?
46.5.
46.5. I'll take the over.
I'll take Las Vegas to cover. They'll probably win too. I'll take Las Vegas to cover, but I'll just take the cover. I'm not gonna go bold as money, guaranteed lock. But we know Eric knows about locks for sure.
I want all my locks.
But yeah, I'll take Vegas to cover, and I'll take the under.
Well,
because I just don't think Pittsburgh's defense is going to be that. They're going to have some answers for Derek Carr to start, but they'll get it together in the end to come back and get the game maybe.
Well, I wanted to go Raiders, but I hate having consensus picks because that means they're going the other way.
We're gonna
Eric, stick to your convictions. Pick who you think is gonna win the football game.
I can't lay 5.5 with Pittsburgh. I'm gonna go Vegas, and I'm gonna take the over of 47 as well. Yeah, I don't think who are they gonna put on Darren Waller?
Hopefully TJ Watt.
It's gonna be it has to be Minka. That takes him out of playmaking territory, and Pittsburgh's corners are not great.
Yeah, so I think,
all right.
Yeah,
that's tough.
But I think we can I'm taking the Vegas Raiders to win the game outright, and I'll take the over. What are you doing? Anything?
I'll just cover, and I'll take the under.
Vegas cover. Vegas cover and over.
All right, but let's move on to the next one. What we got next?
We got two franchises, in my opinion, going in opposite directions, but should be going in the same direction. We've got Bengals coming off a week 1 win headed to the Windy City to see their former quarterback
Oh
in
man,
Chicago.
the Andy Dalton Bowl.
The Andy Dalton led. He got 2 in 2 years. He played him last year with the Cowboys.
Got a W.
Played him. Now he's gonna play him this year with the Bengals. Let's start with Cincinnati on a high note. I mean,
They caught Minnesota in a perfect trap
where's
game.
all my Penei Sewell over Chase Young?
Hey, Penei Sewell played good football too. We'll talk about that later. They both played, but yeah,
The Chase put on a winning effort. Helped his team put on a winning effort.
Jamar Chase balled out. No controversy. 5 for 101 in the tutty.
Mr. Lock of the Week, talk to me. Come on, man. This was easy letdown call.
I don't know how you can have a letdown in week 1, but okay.
Because nobody knows who's good yet for sure. So like you just assume you're good because you've been playing against practice, but you've been doing practice against your team, walk through 75%. So you think you're nice. Like a team we'll talk about later.
I mean, all those preseason reps helped people. Those preseason
Kansas
reps.
City.
I'm talking about Joe Burrow played 3 snaps and handed the ball off, and ate a W on Sunday.
Chase.
Preseason don't matter.
And Chase was terrible. It matters because Kansas City did it, and that's how they could just. They know they're
Kansas
playing.
City could show up and be amazing, but we're not talking about that right now. All right, so but yeah, overall for Cincinnati, extremely good win. Can't underestimate how good of a win this is for a franchise that struggled last year. To go at home, Jamar Chase on the big spotlight after all those drops in preseason, and their offense showed up and showed out. Joe Burrow looked healthy. Joe Burrow looked like was able to spread the ball around. T. Higgins, they all got involved in the offense. Joe Mixon looked outstanding. Looked like he looked healthy as he has looked since he's been a young guy in his career, freshly paid. I think that did wonders for the Cincinnati offense to be able to move the ball on a Minnesota defense that was expected to be better this year, but did not look great on Sunday.
Yeah, they're gonna have to piece that together because they got like guys that opted out and who missed the season last year, so that's gonna be a work in progress. But they didn't lose much ground because everybody in the NFC North lost on Sunday. Eric, any opinions about Cincinnati before we move on to the laughing stock in Chicago?
I mean, they definitely impressed me. I mean, obviously, they busted my lock of the week. I just thought the more experienced team would come out and win the football game, but prove me wrong. Clearly, Jamar Chase does not have a dropping problem.
Glad we get out of the way.
Yeah, even Joe Burrow said in his post-game interview about it. But, yeah, I mean, they were very impressive. Yeah, let's move on to the Bears. Enough with that bet.
Man. Well, the Bears got fed to the slaughter on Sunday Night Football for the whole world to watch as the coronation of Matthew Stafford and his MVP narrative began on Sunday with the Bears team that just looked like they didn't want to be there.
They're not a good team.
They're not a good football team. And
I told you the defense was overrated.
One thing, I think the biggest thing I saw was that they know that they are not going out there with the best chance to win. And it looked like they had no belief. It looked like they had no belief. And then, of course, the first time Andy Dalton touches the ball, it's a turnover. The third time Andy Dalton touches the ball, it's a turnover.
It's right off receivers' hands. So like you're forcing a narrative here.
Right up the team.
That defense looked terrible. Matthew Stafford and the receivers were running wide open.
Absolutely.
Doing whatever they want. They started the first touchdown was a long bomb. It looked like that Michael Vick game against Washington where it's like
well, that team scored 60 that day.
Yeah, but this was like
remember that.
I think the Rams took it easy on them. But this looked like, this team, the Bears are in for a long night the way this looks. And the second Cooper Kupp touchdown, he was behind everybody.
Unbelievably wide open.
Eddie Jackson on the Van Jefferson play.
It was a poor performance. The Chicago Bears defense looked out of sorts. They looked lackadaisical. They looked like they didn't look like they were there to compete.
Matthew Stafford was sidestepping Khalil Mack all along. Yeah.
It wasn't a great. The Bears are a team that are just no one expects the Bears to be that good this year. They're starting Andy Dalton. I just don't know how you and just I can't believe we've gone this far without mentioning him. Justin Fields. Justin Fields did get into the game on Sunday night. He scored a touchdown. Obviously looked like the better football player. It makes no sense why he's sitting on the bench. What you guys think about Justin Fields?
We'll talk about Trey Lance in this situation later too, but it's kind of odd to run a rookie quarterback out there to run gadget plays with him.
I mean, you're trying to get his feet wet.
It's clear that both are better than the starting
significantly.
Quarterback. So it looks weird because it's like, why don't you just run with this? Why don't you run these plays
all the time
with this guy all the time? It actually looks and like I understand what they're trying to do, and if it works, it would work if you had like Alex Smith, who was like a borderline top 10 quarterback, or an actual top 10 quarterback when he was doing it with Patrick Mahomes. even though they weren't doing that. But it's kind of hard when it's like, man, I'd prefer to watch these guys play instead of watching Andy Dalton.
And I think their teammates feel the same way.
Yeah. So, I mean, but still that deep. No, we're not. I'm not. That defense looked. I thought it was going to be a bad defense, and it looked worse than I thought they would look.
Yeah, it's just, wasn't a great look for the Chicago Bears. Eric, any thoughts on the Bears?
What I took away from the Bears is that Cole Kmet is the second best weapon on that team.
Hey.
No, David Montgomery had the best game.
David Montgomery surprisingly
David
really
Montgomery
good.
had the best game for Chicago. He's a running back, unfortunately, so he's just wasting good years on this team. But he looked dominant, like breaking tackles, running away from people's speed. But Cole Kmet did look good, so at least they got one of those tight ends. All right, so let's move on to the actual game itself.
Mm-hmm.
So Bengals are a 3-point road dog versus the Chicago Bears. How about you go first this time, Eric?
I'm gonna take the Bengals. I feel like I'm chasing them now, and they're gonna be the team I chase the rest of the year. I'm gonna take them with the 3 points. Am I going over?
And it's over under is 45.5.
I'll go over. I'll go over on that one.
I got the same. I'll take the Bengals to cover, and I'll take the over. I won't be surprised if the Bengals do it to the Bears what the Rams did to them, and Joe Burrow looks that good.
I'm gonna take Cincinnati too. I really don't feel good about it either way. I feel like the Bears might get up for Andy Dalton to try to give him a revenge game against that team, but
he's a worse quarterback than
the Bears. The Bears looked awful. They looked pathetic on both sides of the ball, honestly. So with the way Cincinnati looked like a bit on the upswing, like it's never easy to win at Chicago. Khalil Mack is still going to be a problem for the Cincinnati offensive line as well. And the Cincinnati defense isn't great, so this might be a better chance for guys like Allen Robinson to make more plays. So the Bears can win, but I'll take the Cincinnati +3. And what was the over under again?
45.5.
I'll take the over.
Cincinnati 31, Chicago 17. That's my score.
I think Chicago can get 20.
Garbage time.
maybe so.
All right. And so for our first mismatch of the week, we have the 1-0 undefeated Houston Texans headed to the dog pound to face the Cleveland Browns. Let's talk about the Texans. We all slept on them. We all said they had no chance against a quarterback who's never played in this league before, against a coach who's got reports that he's heading to USC already. So shame on all of us.
There was a recent report that Eric Bieniemy might be looking at that, but that's another show for another day. But yeah, egg on our face for giving Jacksonville any shot because they looked like they had none. It was an unbelievable performance from the Houston Texans that you had to give them a round of applause. That team looked angry. That team looked like they were out to prove something. And the best ranked football team took advantage of a bunch of young kids and just took them behind the woodshed and introduced them to the NFL.
Yeah, early on, I started looking at the roster. I was like, Brandon Cooks and David Johnson and Mark Ingram and Philip Lindsay. They don't have a regular set of veteran players. They have scrappy veteran players. Tyrod Taylor, their head coach, who's been waiting there his whole life to get the opportunity. He definitely walked in there and said to those guys that this was their best chance to not go 0-17. And they came out playing like it was the Super Bowl. They looked better from the start. And Jacksonville looked clueless. We'll get to them later. But they're playing with a rookie quarterback, and rookie quarterbacks are winless in their first game in our in this century marker. So, yeah, shame on all of us. Eric, go ahead. It's time for you to talk about our shame.
I mean, my hotter take is on, or my takes are more on the Jags than the Texans. Just good on them. Man.
That's what the real conversation is.
Well, I mean,
they don't have veteran players, and that team had nothing but castaway.
But come on, Houston team's not a good football team. That's not a good football team.
Let's think about it.
You can't get beat like they got beat like a drum. They look like they didn't belong in the field.
Philip Lindsay's a good player. Mark
That's
Ingram is a good player.
Jacksonville
David
got
Johnson
good.
is a
Jacksonville
good
got good football
But they're all
players.
young. They're all young.
They got good football
They
players.
don't have any
man.
veteran. Like we know Mark Ingram, he's been with the Saints in playoff matchups.
They look like a
been
team
with
that
Baltimore in playoff matchups. They was gonna get in there and tell those guys like, yo, we good enough to beat these guys today. We good enough.
They
for that.
look like the Jacksonville Jaguars look like a team that lost their, and this is actually accurate, 16th regular season game in a row. That's what they look like. A team that is capable of not winning any more football games.
Tyrod Taylor
Wow.
is undefeated in his last 2 starts.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's move on to the Browns, and all I gotta say are the Browns gonna Brown.
What up? I never truly believed the Browns were getting out of there.
I never
truly believed the Browns were going to get out of there. I always thought the Chiefs were going to find a way to win the football game.
The
but
problem
it's
is
just,
I couldn't even predict how it was coming.
How?
So after the Nick Chubb fumble, me and Moody both looked at each other.
That's the end of the game.
We were like, that's the door they opened up. And when that punter dropped that ball and he was the worst. He made the GOAT play in the bad way of the week. When that punter put that ball on the ground, it just.
You knew it was over.
Especially since the 75-yard bomb came after the Nick Chubb fumble. So I was like, oh, yeah, there it is. Once that bomb happened, I was really like, oh, man, they door wide open.
Kansas City has a formula at this point. They're just gonna do whatever they want to you. And then at the end of the game, they're going to make a couple of plays. And if you don't make the plays to answer, they're going to beat you.
And in the end, it all comes down to this. Baker Mayfield the Browns have a better team than Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes is that much better of a quarterback than Baker Mayfield. Absolutely. That he could erase all of that because the Browns were doing whatever they wanted. They played nearly flawlessly for the first 3.5 quarters, and they still lost.
It's just to beat Kansas City, you're gonna have to be perfect. Like that's just the one thing. Kansas City's margin for error of winning is significantly larger than the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns did almost everything they could, but two critical turnovers from the guys who handled the football the most, and Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb, not to mention the punter. Just you can't make those kind of mistakes and expect to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a great fight. If they see him again, they look like it wouldn't be surprising if they could knock
They've got
off.
the closest team between them and the Titans and the.
But unfortunately, as we saw in the last drive, when it was time to put the ball in Baker Mayfield's hands, when it was time to ask him to go win the football game, you saw what happened right away. Kansas City ain't no world-beating defense that Baker Mayfield can't go try to put a touchdown drive on. The great quarterback's got to go down the field. The quarterbacks who are going to go take their team to the next level, who can overcome the situation, had to get their team down the field to go win that game.
I will also say
Baker Mayfield turned the ball over right away.
Jedrick Wills got hurt, and all of a sudden Chris Jones got real loose on that left tackle. Hubbard, who had the worst pass blocking grade, I believe, of the week. And then
that's a big injury.
They did get their safety kicked out because he was playing with the coach.
The coach should have kept his hands to himself. That was a bad ejection, in my opinion.
But Eric, go ahead. Talk about Browns.
Did they cover? They didn't cover, right?
No, they covered.
They covered.
It was 5.5, and it was 4-point game. Okay. Painful cover.
Yeah, I mean,
unnecessary.
An uncharacteristic fumble for Nick Chubb. He's usually a guy who doesn't wear gloves, and he was wearing gloves for this game, which I found interesting. But I mean, yeah, special teams can win or lose you a ball game, and it showed. I mean, I don't understand kick it, just punt it. Who cares if it goes 20
He panicked.
yards?
He choked. He just choked. He panicked and choked. He had lots of time to fix the problem and make the best out of a bad situation. He chose the wrong decision. He thought he was going to get the first down.
You remember Michigan State, Eric? That's exactly what it looked like. All the right things.
But even those rushes were on his ass. This guy had time. He could have still got it away. He just
this continues my theory that kickers and punters who lift and think they're football players are never good. Never. Like, it's a different type of speed. And that man thought he was going to be a hero. And
no. Zero chance. -0 chance. I mean, negative infinity, really, because they said thank you. They saw him take off. They were like, just tackle him.
But overall, the Browns look like the team, like they're on the cusp. They don't have quite what it takes to get over the top yet, but they're almost there, man. They really put out a good showing.
All right, Houston plus 12.5 dogs. Are they going to cover? Over under 48.5.
I'll definitely take the over. I think that's an easy over because I think Cleveland's going to move the ball in them at will. No, they're probably going to bring Odell Beckham back this week to get a nice, soft, cushiony matchup against the Houston Texans. So I can't imagine Houston in that run defense slowing down Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt from doing whatever they want. As far as the spread goes, I mean, this is an NFL. Houston just showed that they're here to fight. And that's an NFL football team over there. So I'm going to take Houston plus 12.5.
I agree. I'll take the plus 12.5. They'll cover. Backdoor. I hear it. It's already open, cracked open. I'll take the over. Probably 35 to 24.
Something like that, yeah.
I hate big spreads in the NFL. Like this ain't college. So I will be taking the Texans. 12.5 is just too big of a number. And 48, I'll take the under. Yeah.
If their best chance of covering might be the under. if Cleveland makes this a track meet, it could get out of hand.
So moving on next to the team coming off the best week one. They looked like they was having fun out there game. We have the Los Angeles Rams taking their show on the road to another AFC South team. At least this AFC South team is playing another NFC West team. They're headed to Indy to play Indianapolis Colts. The line right now is at 4-point home dogs for Indy, so they get to be home dogs back-to-back. Schedule makers were not nice to them.
No, they were not. They got the toughest opening in the NFL.
Over/under is 47.5. But let's talk about LA. We got to start with Matthew Stafford having the greatest quarterback opening night game for a new team of all time.
A lot of caveats in there.
Tom Brady played for a new team, had a better night than him. Peyton Manning played for a new team. I don't remember what Peyton Manning's first name was. I saw it was both better than Joe Montana, better than Brett Favre, better than Tom Brady, better than Peyton Manning. So we've seen it 3 times in our lifetime.
Tom Brady had to play the Saints, not the whatever the Chicago Bears are.
They made it easy for them. Jalen Ramsey had a dominant game, which bodes well for my defensive player of the year pick. He was running through dudes. He looked like the safety version of Jalen Ramsey. He was being physically dominant, running through people out there. Aaron Donald, and after a while, the Bears gave up on the front, and they let Aaron Donald break through and finally get his sack. But Cooper Kupp, I don't know what he was doing. He had everybody in a trance because he was running wide open all night. Robert Woods made ridiculous catch after ridiculous catch, including the touchdown toe tap in the back of the end zone, which was probably the best catch of the weekend.
I don't know. Terry McLaurin's catch is better.
That's a great catch, but if the DB had just caught the ball.
That's why he's a DB.
But there's not much more to say that we always thought the Rams were given a nice matchup to open up the new stadium and make things look nice. Like they made Vegas earn it. They gave the Rams it. But how we feel about the Rams on Sunday Night Football?
It's just like you said, they got a nice cushiony matchup. The NFL handed them
a playoff team,
a playoff team, Andy Dalton starting quarterback. If Andy Dalton starting quarterback for you, unless this is 2014, you're not playing in any NFL playoff game.
And they still played a better quarterback than they had last year.
Time ago. Are we sure?
Maybe.
Are we sure?
We'll
let's be real. It's just the Bears look uncompetitive. So the Rams being a playoff team last year, upgraded the quarterback position. They look like a tier or two above the Chicago Bears, obviously.
Stafford would look like he was.
I don't know if it was great Rams football or was it just disastrous Bears defense? Because it's not like Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson and guys were just routing guys up, or they were just making mossing plays. These spectacular plays. Guys were just wide open. Just coverage bust. Just not defending on any level in the secondary. Communication issues.
The Jared Goff game plan didn't work this time. They bought that same Jared Goff game plan.
Obviously, you're going to have to adjust a little bit to the new. They're going to be throwing the ball down the field. They're going to be trying to get chunk plays. These guys are going to be trying to stretch the field. But, man, you got to at least try to cover these guys. It looked really, really rough for the Bears on offense. Matthew Stafford looked comfortable, clean, and there was no adversity. They didn't face any adversity in that football game whatsoever. I think it's really, really hard to gauge. We know the Rams are good. I think the Rams proved that they are a really good football team. But are they on the upper echelon of Super Bowl contenders? I think I got to see them in a bigger fight to face that, and they'll get that next week. But we'll see how they match up this week against another former playoff team.
All right, Eric, hit us with your quick takes for LAR because they made it easy.
I mean, they're good. They're going to be a problem. Let's move on to the Colts.
Colts, disappointing opening game.
Really? I thought it was about what I expected. But
September Russell Wilson in full form. But what was most shocking is that they got whooped in the trenches by Seattle. That offensive line did not look dominant. They were harassing Carson Wentz all game.
Listen, I just want to point out that like the Eagles' offensive line match, we started looking like a good football team again when Carson Wentz walked out the door. The Colts' offensive line
it's just healthy. It's just healthy.
The Colts' offensive line looked. It's not really healthy. Diller's hurt. Peter's not even there no more.
Started no more.
Exactly. They move on from that guy.
They gave the backup a big deal. So he's just irrelevant.
So, but it's funny how the Carson Wentz goes to the Colts and the offensive line always look fantastic, and now suddenly doesn't look good anymore. At some point, isn't the offensive line just no longer being good, or is the quarterback causing problems for the offensive line?
Their left tackle retired, and they replaced him with Eric Fisher.
That's very true. And I don't think Eric Fisher played on Sunday.
So, and COVID and Nelson, who's their best offensive lineman, is coming off the foot injury, and so is Wentz, so they didn't practice in training camp. So, they got fed to September Russell Wilson. That was the bigger problem. The defense did not look good. And I like them because they were going to run the ball with that good offensive line and play good defense. If they're not playing good defense, they're not.
Yeah, not only, but like 28 points isn't like an insurmountable amount of points to give up, especially to the way we know how Russell Wilson can throw the ball. But we know Tyler Lockett was just running wide open.
Guys were running wide, running wide open.
Cooper Kupp on the Colts defense. It did not look great at times, but it looks like they were able to settle in at some point. They did go a period of time without being able to score the ball. I think the Colts' inability to competitively match on offense was just as big of a problem. Like the Seattle defense, the secondary there should have been openings there to be able to create offense against that secondary.
But that's where the Colts problem comes in.
T.Y. Hilton being out.
They don't have good weapons. They chose that. What did they draft? They drafted more defensive players.
Kwity Paye, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they need some. They're going to need Paris Campbell and Pittman, who I both like to step up because I didn't see guys getting open.
Not a good performance from the Colts.
But yeah, they got fed to September Russell Wilson. So, Eric, how you feel about the Colts before we pick the game?
I mean, I've never been a fan of Carson Wentz, so I mean, I do think he thinks he's so athletic that he can avoid sacks when he really just runs into sacks. But anyway, let's move on.
Thank you for pointing that out, Eric. I appreciate you seeing
all
what
running quarterbacks run into sacks.
He's not a running
like
quarterback.
Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson the last couple games. It unfortunately it happens. These guys play the defenders are fast too. Rams -4.
I think -4 is fine just because that's less than a touchdown. That's a couple of field goals. It's not that big of a spread in which I don't think the Rams can cover because I do think the Rams are the better team. But the Colts are going to give them a fight this week. I definitely don't expect the Rams to just come in there and treat them like they treat the Chicago Bears. The Colts have a better defense than that. I think in week 2 they'll step up their defensive intensity a little bit better. Probably get a better showing from Carson Wentz in week 2. So, but I'll still take the Rams -4. I'll take the Rams to cover. And what's the over/under?
47.5.
And I'll take the over. I think both teams will be able to put up some points because the Rams defense did show some leakage, especially in the run defense, which is what the Colts want to do.
I'll take Rams 35-27. I'll take Rams 35-27. Is that a cover?
Yeah, that's a cover and an over.
Covering over. Yeah, I mean, I meant to say if that's over. But yeah, so I'll take Rams to cover and an over. I think the Colts need a couple more weeks, but they'll be fine because they get a really nice cushion to fall back on in the back end of the season.
Yeah.
The Rams show continue.
I actually bet this game. I did Rams -4. I think that's going to be easy, honestly. And I got the over 40. What was it? 47?
47.5. It's definitely unless the Colts come out really bad.
Yeah.
Moving on.
All right, so next is the matchup of the two teams coming out of the most shocking game of the weekend on both sides. So we have the New England Patriots. Oh no, we have the Buffalo Bills taking a trip to South Beach. Buffalo coming off a stinker in Week 1. Miami coming off a surprising win to me.
Not to me.
At New England.
Miami. I hope y'all make some money.
So Buffalo. What more can we say about Buffalo other than they outplayed Pittsburgh, but
I feel like I was watching a different football game. I thought Buffalo seemed to be handling it pretty good in the first half, but they were awful in the second half. They did not move the ball well at all. Pittsburgh was able to find some offense in the second half. Like the only point in the half wasn't just the defensive touchdown. Deontay Johnson caught a beautiful fade route, toe tap in the back of the end zone as well.
That was the only long drive.
So it was like so Pittsburgh managed to put some points on the board, getting some field goal drives as well. Buffalo, they got humbled. I think that's the best way to talk about what happened to Buffalo. People were shooting them through the moon as far as their expectations. Like they were going to be a guaranteed Super Bowl team for a lot of people. So they got Pittsburgh at home. People were trying to toss out Pittsburgh to the slaughter, and they got punched in the face. Pittsburgh brought an excellent defensive game plan. They kept Josh Allen in the pocket. They forced him to try to make the simple throws, the baby throws, the boring throws. And, Josh Allen's just not patient enough for all that. Pittsburgh's defense got after it, forced a couple turnovers, and they got out there with the win. I definitely expect a major bounce back from the Buffalo Bills this week, though.
They, in my opinion, they made 2 bad plays that cost them the game against Pittsburgh. They outplayed them thoroughly.
They still only scored 16 points. That's for the offense that was number 1 in the top 5 in the league last year.
Pittsburgh still made a good defense to start, but
16, if you don't, you gotta get better than 16.
If you don't, I'd hope that you don't. If you give up a block punt return for a touchdown, instead of flipping field, you give up points. That throws your whole game off the loop. So I just think Buffalo, they made those 2 mistakes. They usually don't turn the ball over on special teams. They're usually solid on special teams. But I definitely think they'll bounce back because they just need to punch it in. They need a better red zone offense because they were marching up and down the field in Pittsburgh. 2 bad plays, really. What about Miami is shocking because actually I think about it, Miami shouldn't even won that game. But Eric, what do you think about Buffalo before we move on to Miami?
I think they looked good. It was just a couple of unfortunate plays that didn't go their way, and they'll definitely be back and be one of the contenders in the AFC.
Yeah. So before, as I was saying before, Miami played a decent game, but I did forget that at the end of the game that the running back, New England had the ball in field goal range, heading towards it, and their running back fumbled, and Miami got out of there. But that's still a tough win. Nice game from Jalen Waddle to back up the Jamar Chase game, and we'll later see the Devontae Smith game. Mm-hmm. So, how y'all feel about Miami this week?
I think I'm the highest guy on Miami on this show right now. But I'm not surprised that Miami was able to go to New England to get a W. That Miami defense is fierce, it is tenacious, and we know they are very good at forcing turnovers and getting the ball back for their football team. I thought Tua was fine. We know New England's going to have a tough defense, especially in New England, but he made the plays we needed to make. He avoided any disastrous turnovers as well. So, it was an expected low-scoring affair between 2 young quarterbacks and 2 good, complicated defenses. I think this matchup against Buffalo, they got swept by Buffalo last year. I think one of the games were close. The other one was an absolute ass kicking. I expect this will probably be somewhere in the middle, with Buffalo probably being in decent control, but Miami keeping it close because Miami is a good football team in their own right.
All right, how you feel about Miami?
I definitely think they got lucky with that fumble. My bigger take on this game is coming when we talk about the Pats. But, they look formidable. Like, Brian Flores is a great coach. He's definitely going to have his guys ready week in, week out. Good win for them.
So Buffalo's favorite, 3.5 road favorites, over under 47.5. What y'all got?
I'll take Buffalo to cover the 3.5. I would be surprised if Buffalo let down 2 straight weeks. That would really put some questions about Buffalo and their championship hopes. But as you see, with only a 3.5 line, the biggest consideration is he's kind of even. And that's because Buffalo, well, not kind of even, but closer than people will probably expect based off of the quarterback mismatch that we think they have. But I think Miami's going to give them a good fight. I expect Buffalo to cover the 3.5, but I'll take the under. I think the defenses will cause Josh Allen problems in the secondary. Buffalo's going to be pass heavy. Miami's got a terrific pass defense. I think that'll be a strength on strength matchup. I think Miami will do enough to be able to slow them down and keep themselves in the game. I'll take Buffalo to cover, but I'll take the under.
I will say, I always forget in the first few months of the season, playing in Florida is real tough because of the humidity and stuff coming off the summer. So this is definitely a trap game for Buffalo. But I will take Buffalo to cover, and I will take the under. I'll take Buffalo 28-13. I think they win handily. They bounce back. I'll take Buffalo to cover, and I'll take the under.
Well, I have receipts. I got Buffalo at -3. Yeah, I think that's going to be I think that's easy. I think they're definitely going to be coming out, starting off 0-1. They're going to want to come out and get back on the right track. What's the over-under?
47.5.
Over.
Over?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm interested in. You picked over too?
I took the under.
Okay, I'd be interested to see how Miami can stay in the shootout with Buffalo. But moving on to the other side of the AFC East, we've got New England, who we talked about. They played the same game as Miami. Their team choked at the end versus the Jets. And this is my lock of the week when we get there. But the Jets coming off of not a close. They fought back in like Detroit, made it look close in the end. But bummer loss to start the Zach Wilson era in New York. How we feel about New England, just to wrap up that Miami.
New England, like you said, Mac Jones in his first game, it's always tough for rookie quarterbacks to get the first win, which is why I thought Miami could go in New England and get a W. Tough defense he went up against. He probably won't face a lot of secondaries that have Xavier Howard and Byron Jones back there. So I expect a much more smooth performance from Mac Jones this week against a New York Jets defense that we don't expect to be very good, that's dealing with a bunch of injuries. Bill Belichick's going to have a fine game plan for Zach Wilson.
They ran the ball really well, too.
We know New England with that offensive line, they're going to be a good running football team.
Trent Brown did get hurt.
I did realize that as well. New England's at home, right?
No, they're at New York.
They're at New York. I don't. That probably doesn't.
5.5 point favorites.
That probably doesn't super matter for them. But New England coming off a tough loss last week, I think that Bill Belichick getting his hands on a rookie quarterback. Expect good things from New England this week.
How you feel about New England, Eric?
What I learned on Sunday is Mac Jones is the guy for Bill Belichick. With the secondary that Miami has, he still looks comfortable making his throws. Let me pull up the stats. What were they? I was very impressed with Mac Jones. He outdueled Tua. He went 29 for 39, 281, and a touchdown, no interception. I think that's incredibly impressive for a rookie in his first game. So I think Bill Belichick not having to trade up at all to get his guy. I think Mac Jones is definitely going to be the guy for New England for a long time.
Okay. Well, I'll say that I did think their offense was very simple. They went with the easy stuff. But on the Jet side, how we feel about the Zach Wilson debut?
It sucks for the Jets, man. It really, really does. It's just like the Jets. The Jets looked like they had a decent roster coming, starting to put together, especially on the offensive end with the offensive line. But as we see, Mekhi Becton's hurt, Crowder still dealing with injury problems, and now defense with the Carl Lawson injury. It just seems like the hits keep coming for the Jets. They lose a starter every other day. So overall, Zach Wilson looked okay. He probably looked the best he could look against a very young and underrated Carolina Panthers defense, especially with a lack of weapons on the offensive side for him as well. But I really don't expect things to improve much for him in a really, really difficult matchup against Bill Belichick.
Zach Wilson era kicking off against Panthers. How you feel about the game?
He got hit a lot. 6 sacks, 9 QB hits. A rough.
That interception that he threw, it was a rookie mistake through and through. He didn't see it coming. Welcome to the NFL.
Welcome to the NFL.
So, Obviously, being a Panthers fan, I was a little biased watching that game, but I think he looked rough. But what rookie quarterback doesn't look rough in Week 1?
That leads me to my point. Lock it in. Get your locks of the week. Bill Belichick is. I'm gonna save the awkward comparison, so I don't even say what I was thinking. But let's just say Bill Belichick is not friendly to young quarterbacks in the NFL. You can say that like he's a predator towards young quarterbacks. And I will take the Patriots, take the points. They'll probably blow these guys out to make up for that Week 1 loss. They'll run the ball and do whatever they want for him. I'll go Patriots 35, Jets 10. Sorry, Zach Wilson. Welcome to the NFL.
I'll take the Patriots to cover 2. I expect Zach Wilson to be seeing ghosts the way his predecessor was seeing ghosts when he had to make trips to New England.
Continue, Moody.
I don't expect life to be easy for Zach Wilson at all. Mac Jones is going to have a much easier time moving the ball against the Jets defense as well. So yeah, New England to cover. What's the over under?
42.5. So I took the over.
That's really low. So I'll take the over.
Go ahead, Eric.
I mean, I'll go with New England. This was probably number 2 on my locks. Yeah, Bill Belichick just dominates.
Your lock authority is on hold right now.
1-on-1. Like,
if you miss on the lock of the week, you lose money. You're losing people money. You got to at least start 2-0. All right, but yeah, I feel you. This is the lock of the week. Sorry, Zach Wilson. Welcome to the NFL. Moving on to some more interesting teams in a very interesting matchup. So we got the San Francisco 49ers matched up against the Philadelphia Eagles, 2 1-0 teams who won it 2 different ways, both in blowout fashion, you could say.
Yeah.
So we had San Francisco being victim to the backdoor cover and the onside kick.
Yeah.
From the Detroit Lions. How y'all feel about San Francisco? They look.
Well, RIP to my fantasy team, man, Raheem Mostert. Let's just take a moment of silence. 2 snaps and a season-ending injury. It really goes that quick for him. At San Francisco, the injury bug will always seem to be in San Francisco's way. But other than that, they look very, very good. They look like their offense looked absolutely dominant against a team that had no business being able to slow them down. And they didn't. Jimmy Garoppolo looked comfortable, looked able to move the ball up and down the field on them. Trey Lance was able to come in and do the same thing. His first pass being a touchdown pass for him.
Getting all the rookies to it. Who would have thought?
The defense looked good until they let their foot way off the gas. Nick Bosa working his way back. He had a good game 1 as well.
He had some tough matchups with Penei.
I mean, Penei Sewell, who definitely stepped up big time for his football team. That love to see that for them. But overall, San Francisco looked like the better team that just let their foot off the gas late. We all expect San Francisco to be a playoff contender this year as well. So they look like what I expect them to look like, a good football team.
Unlike the NFC North, all the teams in the NFC West won.
Yeah.
And I'll bring up that awkwardness. It's just awkward to run Trey Lance out there for goal line plays and not think that if he's good enough to run goal line plays, he ain't good enough to run plays.
Unlike Andy Dalton, at least Jimmy Garoppolo looked good.
Okay. Yeah. Trey Lance probably looks just as good. That's the thing. But yeah, what you got to say about San Francisco, Eric? How you feel about their game?
Yeah, they look dominant until the last 4 minutes. Thank you, Lions, for the cover. I appreciate you deeply for that.
Kneecap biting out here. And it's fun. Jared Goff's Mr. Garbage Time Jared.
Blake Mortal.
So let's move on to another surprising game of the weekend was when the Philadelphia Eagles just smothered the Atlanta Falcons in an unexpected, even though I picked them to win, they dominantly won. I mean, other than a couple other games, Philadelphia looked like the most dominant team.
Is this more good Eagles football, or is just something disastrous?
We're also going to put the asterisk next to Atlanta, and then we'll get to them and talk about how this really. Yeah, Eagles. They looked up. Like I said, they looked dominant in the trenches, like they always do. And so you can win any game especially against bad teams who are just all around bad. If you're good in the trenches, let's just see how healthy that line stays, because we know got back Brandon Brooks, got back Kelsey, got back Lane Johnson, but those guys are walking injuries. Jalen Hurts didn't look like world beater, but he looked very effective. Devontae Smith looks really good. Looks like people can't get press on him still. We'll see how he goes. Adding the trio, all trio of the receivers have to show out to prove their worth, which is already a good start for all of them. but it's really more of a referendum on Atlanta. We'll get to them later.
I mean, egg on my face. I was shitting on Philadelphia in our season preview. So for them to come out and get an excellent win, a really, really good road win like that, where they look like Atlanta didn't belong on the field with them. Every time I looked over we had 5 TV screens set up. Every time I looked over at the Atlanta team screen, Matt Ryan was on his ass getting sacked, and Philadelphia was doing the celebration. So overall, Philadelphia looks like a team that's got a really, really solid team around them overall. Nothing really special outside of maybe like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham looked good as well. All their defensive line good. They look good. They look deep in that front seven as well. But so good win for Philly. Jalen Hurts looked like capable NFL starting quarterback as well, which is a great sign for the Philadelphia Eagles. But overall, I don't know how good Philly really is. I think like they're clearly not as bad as they're better than I thought. They definitely look a lot better than but
way better than Atlanta.
I don't know. But Atlanta, the only team that looked worse in Chicago this week probably was the Atlanta Falcons.
And then the Green Bay Packers.
We'll talk about that one later.
Eric, how you feel about Philadelphia before we pick the game?
I mean, definitely surprising, but I think it's more of a vendetta on Atlanta than how good Philly is.
So San Francisco was a 3.5-point road favorite, rematch of last year when Philly came into their house with Carson Wentz and beat the San Francisco 49ers in that epic Nick Mullins terrible game. I will take San Francisco to cover. Over under is at 50.5. Hit the under. I'll take
50.
I'll take San Francisco to win 24-20.
I am almost in perfect agreement with you. Definitely San Francisco cover. Definitely the under. This is at Philly we're talking about. Philly doesn't give up points at home. And so I expect Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance to have a much more difficult time being able to move the ball, especially without their starting running back Mostert being with there as well. So yeah, San Francisco will cover the spread. They'll probably win by a touchdown, but this is going to be a low-scoring, ugly affair in Philadelphia.
Well, this is my lock of the week, boys. With the 49ers minus 3.5. This spread should be so much higher. They're just high on Philly. I think this is a easy
Vegas knows how to make money.
Easy 49ers minus 3.5. I will take the under as well, but I think it's going to be most of those points are going to be the 49ers, and the Eagles are going to struggle finding points. So my lock of the week, 49ers minus 3.5.
All right. So next we finally get to talk about the most epic game of the weekend. But first we'll start with the other team since we already started their game. We have the New Orleans Saints fresh off a hometown stomp out. Headed to Carolina for a divisional game against the Panthers and Sam Darnold and company. So let's first start with wrapping up for Carolina. Christian McCaffrey was back. He looked like Christian McCaffrey. DJ Moore was making big plays. Robbie Anderson looked like Robbie Anderson. I'm not going to say Sam Darnold was looking like a world beater, but he looked good. He looked way better than he ever looked. It was the best of the Jets, Sam Darnold, that you got to see on that night, which doesn't bode well for Adam Gase ever working in this town, in this world ever again as a football guy. But they let the Jets hang around, which is just the only questionable thing I have about that game. They let the Jets a couple turnovers. Defense was when they weren't getting bad Zach Wilson or bad Spears pass rush. So I will say they didn't look at like world beaters, but it's week one, so it's all about getting the dub in week one.
This is the Panthers are another team that got just handed an absolute layup for week one.
Someone's got to play the bad team.
Someone gets to play the bad teams. And they gave Carolina like, oh, we want Sam Darnold to look good week one. Just give them the Jets, because just in the season, that's how it is for New York up there.
More injuries.
More injuries. We know how it is. Panthers look fine. I expect their defense to be good, and it did. Burns looked good. Reddick looked good getting after the quarterback. Their secondary obviously is going to be really, really hard to throw on with all that speed, especially they're going to add A.J. Boye back as well. So I definitely think the Panthers defense looked about as expected. Sam Darnold looked probably a little bit better than what he normally looks like, but I don't think it was anything world-beating. The receivers looked as advertised. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrence Marshall, Christian McCaffrey, included in that category as well. Those weapons that Sam Darnold has around him, they look very good. They look like a unit that is ready to step up, especially in the yards after catch game that can really help elevate Sam Darnold to a level that he wasn't able to reach in the New York Jets.
Hit us with the last take on Carolina, Eric. How you feel about the dub?
I loved their defense. Only giving up 2.65 rush attempts. That was the best in the league on week 1.
Let's remember we're playing the Jets here.
Sacks in the league. I mean, I definitely think this defense is going to be something to worry about. Being the youngest team in the NFL, obviously we're going to have our ups and downs this year, but we going to the playoffs. I don't care. But no, like also another weapon, Dan Arnold at tight end, I think is going to be utilized as well. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, just like Moody said, as advertised, they are yak receivers. Sam Darnold, probably his best game of his career with the best weapons around. And I told you, Christian McCaffrey going for 1,000 and 1,000. I told you, bro.
He's not even on pace for it, but he could. Actually, no, he probably is. Yeah, he probably is. We'll see. Hey, it's a longer season, so you have to make it through the season first. But let's move on to the best talking point of the weekend. We have the New Orleans Saints who put the smack down on Aaron Rodgers' Green Bay Packers in the most shocking performance of the weekend behind Houston scoring a bunch of points and blowing somebody out. So how we feel about New Orleans?
Shout out to Jameis Winston for doing that for Cowboy fans everywhere. Just to go out there, just absolutely put it on Aaron Rodgers, make that pretty boy look like ass. Awful. They looked like they didn't belong on the NFL field. It was unbelievable.
And they had to sit there wondering why they was getting outplayed.
Just the whole time, from start to finish, they never looked like they belonged on the field with the New Orleans Saints. That was an unbelievable performance from Jameis Winston. The highlight of the day, though, is Saints defense. The Saints defense is legit. It is unbelievable. Now, Lattimore is having thumb surgery. He's going to be week to week. Davenport was also dealing with an injury issue as well. So we'll see how they recover from those things. But they did make it. McCoy at center with a calf strain as well. They did make the trade for Bradley Roby from Houston. They're going to be able to plug him in. So that'll help them overcome the Lattimore loss a little bit. And they did draft Cesar Ruiz, who was a really good center at Michigan. He'll be able to sign up to that spot for Eric McCoy. We'll see how they look at their guard depth. But the Saints look great, man. Like, Sean Payton is 9-1 in his last 10 games without Drew Brees. The Saints offense.
If only they could play a playoff game without Drew Brees.
Oh, man, you hate to see it. He's always healthy when it matters. But the Saints offense looked like the Saints offense. Like, they're scheming guys wide open. The offensive line is doing a great job protecting. They're running the ball physically downhill with a whole bunch of different guys. So the Saints offense, like the Saints offense, and then Jameis Winston was just able to take advantage and hit the big plays over the top, hit a couple of screens that went for long plays for a touchdown. So Jameis Winston was very comfortable. He's another guy like Matthew Stafford who just faced no adversity. He went against a team that just seemed to be overmatched, overpowered, and quit. Frankly, that's what it looked like.
That team went to the NFC Championship game, so
there's no reason for a team that went to the NFC title game to be down by 32, 35 to.
We know when the Packers lose, they get blown out.
But 35 to 3.
I mean, it's only the second time it's happened in the last 2 years.
Like,
it happened last year. Tampa Bay did it today.
It was an unbelievable.
Aaron, have some pride.
Just a little bit.
How you gonna bitch and complain all offseason? Have some pride. Don't show up and get smoked like that by Jameis Winston. Eric, how you feel about this game?
I mean, I'm definitely not gonna overreact to it.
We definitely shouldn't overreact.
Oh, the Packers are gonna be fine, but they still gotta eat this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a great game for New Orleans. I don't expect Jameis Winston to be like that week in and week out. Now I'm not expecting 30 interceptions from him, but yeah, definitely a good win, and definitely the surprise win of the weekend.
All right, so let's pick it. We got New Orleans -3, road favorites with an over-under of only 44.5. I'll go first. I'll take the Saints to cover. I got to after what they did last week, but I'll take the over. This should be an exciting game.
I'm going to take Carolina +3. I'm going to give Carolina. I think the Saints. It's just I don't think the Saints are that good, man. I think the Saints look good. Like I'm not going to argue. Like the Saints are like a team that could be in the playoffs. But what they did to Green Bay, that's an anomaly, man. They just showed up on a team that's got a whole bunch of issues that they got going on in their locker room, and they took advantage and beat the snot out of them. I think Carolina is a good football team overall, even if they're not great at quarterback. But I don't think the Saints are that great at quarterback either. I expect Carolina to be in this game with their defense. So I think Carolina +3. Saints may win the game, but it will definitely be close down to the last drive of the game. And I'm picking the under. I think these are two really good defensive football teams that are going to make these quarterbacks struggle.
All right, Eric, show some non-bias, and pick the game.
Okay, non-bias. Panthers +3 or whatever it is. I even bet the money line. If they're going to make the playoffs, they got to win games like this. In the division, let's go to 2-0. The over, easiest bet, I think, because both of these teams are going to score points. It's going to be an exciting one. If I want my prediction to be true for them to go to the playoffs, they have to. They don't have to win this game, but they need to.
You drew the line in the sand. I understand. You got the only way to get to the playoffs is by winning games consistently. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah,
yeah. So,
all right. And the last game of the 1 o'clock time frame, the slaughter to be. We've got the Denver Broncos taking Teddy Two Gloves and their show down to Jacksonville, home of AEW, to face Trevor Lawrence in his second game of his NFL career. So let's finish up talking about Jacksonville. What the hell happened in Jacksonville?
We should have known.
No, you should have known. I said they were going to be a bad team. He had him at AFC Dark Horse right here.
Hey, I said AFC South Dark Horse, because you saw with all the L's the AFC South was taking, that division isn't good.
Jacksonville.
But because they went in there, they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, who shockingly bad. And my expectations weren't super high for Jacksonville. No starting quarterback no number 1 overall pick has won his first game in 20 years.
In our lifetime.
Well, yeah, David Carr beat the Cowboys in his first game.
That's not our lifetime.
That's us too. Yeah. So technically we're around for that.
We didn't watch it at all, though.
But yeah, that was a horrifying performance on both sides of the ball from the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's more surprising how bad their offense struggled, I think. The Jacksonville Jaguars defense has never looked good at any point last year or in the preseason this year, so don't expect them to be very good. The Texans got some good veterans on their offense to be able to make some plays and move the ball. So it's not super surprising that they couldn't. I think they racked up points more because of the turnovers from the Jacksonville
Trevor Lawrence
offense.
had some bad.
It's just Trevor Lawrence looked
rookie mistakes.
He looked like a rookie. He looked like a guy who's playing his first ever NFL game against an NFL football team that's we're not here to get our ass kicked by some kids. The Texans played with pride. The Texans played like veterans who have been in this league for a while, who have seen success in this league, and they just weren't going to allow the Jacksonville kids to come through there and make any sort of statement on their name.
Yeah, just a round of applause for Trevor Lawrence's first ever regular season loss.
Yeah, I know it must be tough. He's never felt this. He's never felt this before. Well, and for it to come to Tyrod Taylor. Well, they tried to give him a layup. The Jags were one of the teams that they thought they were going to give a layup.
Trevor, get used to this. It's going to be a long season. They couldn't run the ball really well.
And apparently Urban Meyer's already on his way out.
They couldn't pass the ball really well. They were getting out-coached by David Culley, which shows that Urban Meyer, good luck. Let's pick the game. Oh, let's talk about – we already talked about Denver earlier. Well, let's finish on the Denver side of that game.
If we're going to call this – I know we're going to pick the game, but this is probably like a secondary lock of the week. Denver looked like
they didn't look like
world beaters. They looked like what you expected Denver to look like. They have a really, really good defense. Definitely, Bradley Chubb will be. We'll see what's going on with Bradley Chubb. That's all up in the air right now.
He's got a lot of stuff going on with him.
But you expect their defense to be good. Their defense look good. Ronald Darby's out, but they're going to play the better player in Patrick Surtain now anyway. So that would be great for the Denver. That's going to be an improvement for the Denver defense. So we know their defense is going to be good. Teddy Bridgewater was outstanding. He was good. He was out.
On third down, he was elite.
We're grading Teddy Bridgewater on the curve.
We don't grade
because Teddy Bridgewater because we don't. I'm not expecting Teddy Bridgewater to be no great quarterback, but he played like a great quarterback. Great quarterbacks perform on third down, especially on third and long. And he showed up down after down after down.
I'm sorry I disrespect you, Teddy. You still average, but damn. He
showed up and showed out. Their run game didn't look great, but they were able to pop it when the game to close it out. They were able to pop some big runs and close the game out as well. The Giants team, who I thought is a better team than what they showed, That's a really good road winner for the Denver Broncos. I expect them to go against they're going to Jacksonville against another really, really young team that doesn't really know what they're doing right now, doesn't know their identity. Denver should come in there and take care of business.
Eric, any other lasting thoughts on Denver before we pick the slaughter?
Panthers should have gotten more than a 6th-round pick for Teddy B. That's it.
Yeah. So Denver -6 road favorite. Take Denver.
Denver to cover.
Like Moody said, secondary lock of the week. Over under 45.5. Take the over. There'll be lots of garbage time. But I'll take Denver to win 31-20.
I'll take Denver to cover, and I'll take the over.
Yeah.
Same.
All right, on to the 4 o'clock window. We're going to start with some more surprising games. We talked about Minnesota's loss earlier. They'll be traveling to face the Arizona Cardinals, who are coming off a dominant performance against the Tennessee Titans. So let's finish up with Minnesota. On a disappointment scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed are we in Minnesota?
Like an 8. It was like Minnesota's expected to be a significantly better football. Eric, I know it's your lock of the week, so that's pretty disappointing for you. But like, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility that Minnesota could go to Cincinnati and lose. Cincinnati's team, it does have talent, especially on the offensive end. Minnesota's defense is still definitely in the rebuilding phase. Their problems are not all solved from bringing some of their healthy guys in the front 7 back. Their secondary is still a massive issue in terms of being able to cover guys, and that's going to be a problem for them all year. Offensively, they looked okay. But that's the problem. That team's offensive talent dictate they should look a lot better than okay. Their offensive line got whooped up front by a defensive line in Cincinnati that isn't very good. It shouldn't be very good. But Minnesota's offensive line had a really hard time, and it's just I don't know what to think of Minnesota right now.
I'm going to amp it up a little bit. I'm going to go to a 9 since we know Eric's going to go to the 10, so we'll just let the numbers go there. If they were thinking about being a playoff team, losing games to Cincinnati on the road, I know it's hard. You're not going to be a playoff team if you're losing games to Cincinnati because I still don't think. Now, Cincinnati, I thought there could be a sneaky team, but I'm not banking them to be so sneaky where they're beating lots of playoff teams this year. So that was probably a letdown game. Eric, disappointment scale, we already know. 10 for 10.
10.
All my homies here, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins limits your offense. With the weapons they have with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, you should not be losing and only scoring 20 points against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Exactly.
All right, so let's move on to a more exciting team. Another quarterback who started off with an MVP-type performance to start the season. All of them seem to come from the NFC West. We got Kyler Murray and his leading DPOI candidate teammate, Chandler Jones, putting on dominant performance, 5 touchdowns for Kyler, 5 touchdowns for Chandler Jones.
Thanks.
Who were we more impressed with?
Definitely Chandler Jones. He attacked an all-pro player and just made him apologize on social media. Like, you whip somebody's ass when he has to go apologize for getting his ass kicked. Like, that's just what it is. So we'll definitely give Chandler Jones all the flowers for that. Pay him whatever he's asking for, Arizona. You need to get that done. But but we know the story is Kyler Murray. He looked like what he looked like at the beginning of last year, MVP caliber type of player when he's healthy and when that offense is going. Tennessee's defense looked gross. Honestly, looked very, very, very underwhelming. And I think that bodes well for what their prospects are this week against a Minnesota defense that didn't look much better than what Tennessee's did.
I'll say Kyler just because nothing needs to be said about Chandler Jones. We'll just leave that game in infamy. Taylor Lewan, welcome to the history books. You'll be remembered forever if you never do anything great.
I mean, I'll give Tyler Lewan a break. He's coming off an ACL tear. First game, tough matchup against an all-pro defense.
Who's coming off an injury too?
But 5 sacks.
And
he wrecked the game.
Not just 5 sacks. 5 sacks, 2 leading to forced fumbles because you're getting walked by. But Kyler Murray,
he's a video.
Kyler Murray was. What were we saying?
He's a video game. He's the closest to Mike Vick I think we've seen.
He's the second. Him and Lamar in that category of we're trying to see which one of them is more freakily talented to the point where you just can't catch him because you can't touch him.
I think Kyler's more elusive than him.
Yeah, I think we've definitely had the talk where Kyler is more elusive and we think Lamar's faster. But yeah, the play where he on 3rd down, where he juked out the 3 defenders going backwards and then threw the dime to Christian Kirk in the back of the end zone over the shoulder. Perfect.
And their weapons are loaded.
Yeah, AJ Green is your 4.
And they need to play him less. Like they need to Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk need to be there 2 and 3, and they just need to move on.
And they're going to be in 4 or 5 receiver sets most of the time anyway.
Yeah.
So that's tough. That's going to be tough. Sorry that they play in such a tough division. So let's pick it. So Arizona's a 3.5 point favorite. Over under is a 51. I think it's easily that I'm going to take Arizona to cover. And I'm going to have to hit that over and hope that Kirk Cousins gets the garbage time going if it gets out of hand. But this is easy. I'll take Arizona 31. I'll take Arizona 35, Minnesota 31. Minnesota loses another close game.
Where's this game being played?
In Arizona.
Arizona, yeah, I'll take Arizona to cover in the over. I think this will be a pretty good scoring game. I think both teams will reach the high 20s. Maybe somebody hits the 30s. But yeah, Arizona, especially after their week 1 performance, looks like they got the momentum coming in.
I'll go Arizona in the under.
Okay. So everybody picked Arizona, and Eric went with the under. All right, moving on to what's probably going to be the most exciting game of Sunday. We have the Dallas Cowboys taking a trip to LAC to face Justin Herbert, who's facing his second NFC East team. So good season for LAC when they get to start the season against an NFC East team. So take it away, Moody. How you feel?
I mean, I really hate that we have to start the season with 2 road games against Tom Brady and Justin Herbert, but the NFL just loves themselves, the Dallas Cowboys, I guess. I mean, we all watched the Thursday night game last week. The Dallas Cowboys, they put on one hell of a show like the Dallas Cowboys usually do. It's a shame it came with defeat. The Tom Brady just was the GOAT and was just got the ball last on that night. But I think it was a lot of encouraging things to see about the Dallas Cowboys, especially how Dak Prescott looked. He was unbelievable in his first game of the year, going against that defense, taking all the hits that he took, and he was able to deliver the ball to his receivers, and they were able to make plays for him as well. With no real run game to speak of, he looks 100% ready to go. That's got to be super duper encouraging for the Dallas Cowboys as well. The defense, up and down, obviously. Really only one guy played bad, in my opinion, on the defense, and that's Anthony Brown. And unfortunately, he played so poorly that he was the difference in the game. But not every team, and definitely not the LA Chargers, has Antonio Brown as their number 3. So so hopefully he does have to go against a bunch of Antonio Browns as number 3 receivers throughout the rest of the season, and maybe that could bode well for the Dallas Cowboys defense that was very good against the run and continued their rate of forcing turnovers. That's the Dallas Cowboys showed that with Dak Prescott, they are going to have a chance to win every week they play.
Eric, how do you feel about the Cowboys?
I was very impressed. I mean, they should have won that game if Greg Zuerlein makes some field goals.
Then I failed to mention him because I didn't want to.
I'll also say, let's not forget, if Tampa Bay played a pretty poor game, but we'll save that for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the Cowboys.
LAC, dominant performance by their offensive line, dominant performance by their quarterback. Let's see.
I'm gonna hesitate.
300 yards on that defense.
I'm gonna hesitate.
300 yards on
a dominant performance because of how well his offensive line played. Like he had the lowest amount of pressure on dropbacks of any quarterback in week 1, and I thought he was fine. Like I expect somebody who, with the amount of time that he had, with the receiving group that he apparently has, that he would have put on a much more dominant performance because they neutralized the strength of the Washington football team was their defensive line. He was under no pressure.
They went with a short game.
And look, Justin Herbert was really good on 3rd down, and that was the key of the game. But he did have a couple of bad decisions, including the awful turnover in the red zone, which should have cost him the game.
We don't know that. They still got to go down and score.
Still got to go down and score. That's fine, but they were down. He threw a bad pick in the red zone. If it was Antonio Gibson fumbling the ball right back, really changed the game for the LA Chargers, or we might be having a different conversation about what we feel about the LA Chargers this year. But we expect the Chargers to be good. It's a good win, although I think the injury to Ryan Fitzpatrick definitely helped them avoid any sort of threat of the offense. But yeah, overall the Chargers look fine. They looked like a good team, but I wasn't impressed.
That offensive line was impressive.
The offensive line was absolutely.
They did a good job against that defense. They probably have one of the best showings against that defense. Eric, how do you feel about the Chargers before we pick a game?
The Rashawn Slater seems to be the steal of the second steal of the draft behind Mac Jones.
Don't let me know. I know. I just told everybody he was the best. He was a top 5 player, best tackle on the board. But we wanted Kadarius Toney and another first-round pick, and you probably will put those 2 guys together, and they probably won't ever be Rashawn Slater. But I digress from that pain. Let's pick the game. Cowboys are a 2.5 point underdog going on the road. Over/under is 55. So the Cowboys take the second trip to SoFi. So I'll pick first. clearly the NFL wants SoFi to be big for LA. I'll pick the LA Chargers to cover. I'll take Chargers 34, Cowboys 31. Probably be the best game of the day. But yeah, over. Probably part two of what we got to get against Tampa Bay.
You always got to worry about consistency when it comes to both of these teams. These teams are very much carbon copies of each other when it comes to basically their recent 20-year success and the luck that comes with injuries and or close games. I mean, with the way Dak Prescott showed last week, if he plays like that, there aren't a lot of teams that are going to be able to match that one, game for game. This isn't the Tampa Bay Buccaneers they're playing, but Lyle Collins' suspension causes a lot of questions with him. With looks like likely starting tackle Terrence Steele going up against Joey Bosa, but I believe in Dak Prescott's ability to go on the road and get a W here. It's going to be close. I expect it to be a game comes down to whoever gets the ball last. I just hope this week is my quarterback. The Chargers are a good football team, but they are not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think the Dallas Cowboys will be able to find a way to get a win on the road.
I'm going to go Cowboys +3.
Try not to sound so shocked there.
Are you picking them to win, or are you just picking them to cover?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. I don't know if they're going to win. It's going to be a close game, but I'll take the points in this game.
To go with the underdog in a +2 is beyond. It's saying a little bit more than close game, but continue.
Oh yeah, and I'll take the over. I mean, I think it's going to be a shootout.
Absolutely over. I forgot to mention it, but yeah, this is gonna be fun.
So I was the only one to take LAC, but we all took the over. Next, we'll move on to another matchup that let's breeze through this. Atlanta's headed to Tampa Bay. Do we need to disrespect Atlanta anymore and say that's probably
no? Y'all are pathetic. Move on.
Eric, Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah. Garbage can.
Good luck. Should have taken Justin Fields. But at least you got Kyle Pitts, who caught 4 passes for 50 yards. Solid.
What a dumb pick.
Tampa Bay. They played a terrible game and they were.
I think they still played good football. Tom Brady still 50 passes, he's still 65 customers of his passes for almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. The running backs played bad. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, but those guys aren't great football players anyway. All the receivers look good. The front 7 looked every bit as good as it does.
Mike Evans did not look great because he had a couple of drops, but he wasn't. They weren't. I would have targeted Mike. If Mike Evans was my best receiver on my team, I would target him, Tom.
But he was going against the Cowboys' best corner. Why attack him when Antonio Brown could just destroy Anthony Brown for all 4 quarters? Chris Godwin as well. Trayvon Diggs played a really good game on him, but overall, yeah, the Tampa Bay Bucks, they were good. They were the Tampa Bay Bucks. Like the fact that they should have lost the game just shows how good they are.
I mean, they should have lost the game, but they're so good that they could turn them over 3 times, play a C- game, and still be up all game. So
I mean, up all game was a stretch. We were up late in the first half and in the fourth quarter.
Up 95%, including me and Eric. Anything else to say about Tampa Bay other than it's TB 12?
They're gonna win this game by a lot.
Yeah, it's GOAT. And yeah, they're one of the deepest teams in the NFL, so they're gonna destroy this game. They're gonna blow them out.
11.5. Over under is 51.5.
Tampa Bay to cover under.
I'm going Tampa to cover and over.
I'll take Tampa Bay to cover, and I'll also go over. Good luck, Atlanta. And lastly, of the 425 games before we get to the primetime games for the week, we've got another AFC South, NFC West matchup. We've got the Tennessee Titans headed to Seattle. This should be tough. Let's finish up talking about Tennessee. What more can we say other than their defense was trash and Taylor Lewan single-handedly cost them the game? Wrap it up to week 1 and move on. Derrick Henry, we're not going to let you off. Derrick Henry, Julio Jones, that was MIA. We're not going to let you off the hook, but it was week 1, so we'll say we wasn't that's why you need preseason. How y'all feel about Tennessee?
They looked awful. They were one of the more disappointing teams in week 1 for sure. I don't like the Seahawks don't have Chandler Jones, so you would hope that Taylor Lewan's not going to just get dominated like that. But the Seahawks defense has been really, really good over the last 8 or so games that they played in. So I don't expect it to just be easy pickings for Tennessee, despite their offensive talent. And Tennessee's in for a fight on the road at Seattle in September. If Tennessee's going to bounce back and show that they're a playoff team, this is the week to do it.
Eric,
we're still for the boys. Tyler Lewan, we're all still for the boys. But yeah, I think this will be a bounce back game for them. I think they need to get back to. They were pass heavy in week 1, right?
They were down.
They were down.
I mean,
Because they gave him a defensive touchdown. So
yeah, I mean,
Taylor
I still think they need to get back to Derrick Henry and establish the run hard and see where it goes.
All right. And we haven't talked about Seattle. Oh, we talked about their game though. Seattle finished off Indianapolis. September, Russell Wilson. What more can we say other than if they gave the MVP award away at Thanksgiving, Russell Wilson would have been the last 5 MVPs.
Yeah, he still got no votes.
You got come on December and not January, Russell. That's where MVPs are really made. But Tyler Lockett was getting wide open. DK Metcalf was getting wide open. There isn't a scarier set of receivers to go against because those guys are a threat to go all the way. Those two guys are a threat to go all the way, and the quarterback they have utilizing them makes it even more dangerous. And so Indianapolis, they got caught slipping early. Those fast guys get past you a little bit easier in the first few months. But anything else to say about Seattle?
Seattle's really, really good. We know Russell Wilson is a minimum.
On that one?
Russell Wilson is a minimum 9 wins in the playoffs. They went on a road against a good Indianapolis defense and just threw it all over the yard. And I expect a Tennessee defense that has basically replaced their entire secondary that they're going to throw it all over the yard against them too. Their defense is ascending. They showed that it's really good. We know Russell Wilson's going to be able to do the job on offense. And now it looks like they have an offensive line that's going to be able to give him time in the pocket. And if that's the case, it is scary hours for Russell Wilson.
Eric, Seattle, talk to us about how you feel about their game last week.
I mean, yeah, they're always a strong team in the first half of the season, and I mean, I expect them to have some trouble this weekend, but I think they exposed some of Indianapolis's faults. Yeah, I mean, it was an easier game of the weekend.
All right, so let's pick it. So Tennessee's a 5.5 point underdog. Over under is 53.5. I'll take Tennessee to cover. Over is 53.5. That's really high. So I'll take the over. I'll take Tennessee 38, Seattle 35.
Oh, wow, you're picking a road upset, huh? This is going to be the first time we see the 12th man back in 2 years. They are going to be jumping in Seattle, and I don't think Tennessee's going to be ready for the blitz they're going to receive. Seattle's run defense is also going to be very, very good, and Tennessee tries to establish a run and run Derrick Henry to a brick wall. They could get blown out the way they got blown out against Arizona. I'm going to pick Seattle to cover, and the only way Tennessee's going to be able to be in the game is if they throw the ball and try to keep up. So I'm going to take the over as well. I think this will be a high-scoring affair, but I expect Seattle at home with the 12th man back in action to get the job done.
Yeah, I got Seattle on the over. I'm with Moody. I was going to say the same point about the 12th man. It's been a while since they've been there, so they're going to be extra loud and proud. Yeah, I think Seattle's going to control this game.
My X factor, just because I picked them, Seattle secondary can't, like you said, Indianapolis didn't have the weapons to expose Seattle's weakness in their secondary. I would like to see Julio Jones and A.J. Brown need a big game from them if they're going to get the season off to the roll. We're now on to these primetime games. So the first one on Sunday night, we've got our classic Lamar versus Patrick. We've got Patrick Mahomes and his Kansas City Chiefs headed to Baltimore to face off against the Ravens. So we've already talked about that Monday Night Football game that was so crazy. Let's talk about the Ravens.
Baltimore, they were the biggest chokers of the weekend, probably. They were a team that just looked like they were the better football team, just in control, and they looked like right when they were about to hit it into cruise control, ball goes on the ground, Vegas Raiders fight their way back, and Baltimore just can't get out there at the end. But Baltimore's a good team, but the injuries have really, really hit them hard, and this is just a rough week to have this matchup coming up against Pat Mahomes.
Their pass rush did not look strong. They blitzed a lot and got beat. So, yeah, that's scary as hell to be wondering what they're going to do. Eric, Baltimore?
I mean, it was definitely probably one of the more disappointing losses of week one. Just decimated by injuries, and we'll see if they can bounce back from them.
All right, let's put a bow tie on Kansas City. How much more great can you talk about Kansas City?
It's their league, and we're all just living in it.
Mahomes,
as long as that offensive line is healthy and Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball to Hill and Kelsey, there's nothing. They're gonna win when they want to win.
If you want to talk about Russell Wilson September, Patrick Mahomes has
Yeah,
30.
Pat Mahomes is in a category that's
That's different. Pat
everywhere.
Mahomes,
He has
Patrick Mahomes in the
30.
league is
He has 35 touchdowns and no interceptions in the month of September. That is insane.
he's always great. He's always ridiculously great though. So like
He's just in the tier by himself, man. It's ridiculous.
so wrap it up. Let's make the pick. Baltimore is a 3.5 point dog at home. And I think it's pretty easy to say I'm going to take Kansas City to cover. Over under is 55.5. So I'll take Kansas City to win 35-21. A lot of competitive finishes this week, I guess I'm calling. I'll take Kansas City 35-21. So I'll take the over. But I don't think Baltimore will have what it takes to even make it competitive.
Baltimore has to prove that they can beat Kansas City before they can be picked to beat Kansas City. So I'll take Kansas City and I'll take the over.
Yeah, this is my secondary lock of the week. Chiefs minus 3.5. Oh, what was it?
3.5, yeah.
3.5.
Oh, over under is 55.
I think that's an easy one. I'll go over.
And lastly, the worst game of the weekend.
We can just move along.
The worst game of the weekend.
Why NFL?
We
don't deserve this.
On Monday Night Football, and I bet you the Mannies won't host this one because they're only doing 10 games on Monday Night Football. We've got Dan Campbell taking his kneecap fighting garbage time Warriors to Lambeau Field, where they'll be facing Green Bay coming off a ass beating for the ages, looking for some redemption. So we've got the Detroit Lions, who are 11.5 point dogs, going in Green Bay. Let's talk about Detroit and the fact that they might be the best garbage time team we'll ever see in our lifetime.
That was an unbelievable backdoor cover. That's probably the best thing you can say about Detroit's week one. Like they had the ball with a chance to tie the game. So, somehow, some way, they had the football in the fourth quarter with a chance to send the game to overtime. You got to give them credit for fighting to the end. But we know that's not a good football team.
They have no weapons.
Tyrell Williams,
except for a tight end.
Like TJ Hawkinson and the running backs are going to be their entire offense. The O-line looked fine. Panay Sewell showed up and showed out. Definitely looked very good in his first game.
Right now, look good.
So, like, Detroit got some decent foundational pieces. They looked, Jeff Okudah was getting shot on the sideline, then proceeded to tear his Achilles.
What a pick.
So
I told him that don't take.
It's a bummer for Detroit. That secondary is not very good at all. And I guess Aaron Rodgers looking for a bounce back. It's a bad recipe.
Eric, talk to me about the kneecap biters in Detroit.
Thank you for the cover. That's really all I can say. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, now let's move on to Green Bay because it's time to roast Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers, after an offseason of flirting with every other team in the league, flirting with a new girl who became his wife, and not showing up to camp, he went out there and he got shellacked.
Probably the worst game of his career.
I hope he didn't throw it. I just hope he was playing bad and not playing petty. But with Aaron Rodgers, who knows? He could be playing petty, could be playing bad. But yeah, that was probably the worst game of his life. So let's pound on rain on Aaron Rodgers parade today.
I mean, we all know Aaron Rodgers. Unless there's a star on the other side of the field, you never know what you're going to get out of Aaron Rodgers. He looked like a guy who was disinterested in playing good football on Sunday. Like obviously he still made a couple of the Aaron Rodgers type of throws that he's going to make.
It's all up here, Aaron.
But we know Aaron with his mental thing. If Aaron's right mentally, the Packers are going to win 13 plus games. If he's not, it could look a lot like 2018-19 where they were just.
They lost to the worst team in the league that year.
Yeah, so it's just we don't know. I don't know what to expect right now. They have a lot of. They're the team with the drama. They're the team with the locker room issues, the turmoil and stuff like that. We're going to see if they're able to make this band together for a last dance, or is this the beginning of an end of a very, very ugly divorce in Green Bay?
They're lucky they play in the NFC North,
where everybody loses.
Eric, talk to us about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron.
Well, there won't be much slander from me. All I'll say is the last time Aaron Rodgers threw 2 picks in a game, that year they won the Super Bowl.
That was so long ago. The Giants won the Super Bowl the year after. But let's pick the game. 11.5 point underdogs.
Green Bay cover under.
How can you have an 11-point spread cover but not the over?
Because I think Green Bay would get up and just run the clock out.
Like, so you're looking for a 21-10 game,
I think that. What's the over under?
40.5.
Yeah, I think Green Bay would just get up. I don't expect Detroit to do a whole lot on offense. I think Green Bay would get up
24 to 10.
and just it'll just be over. Like the game starts at 8:30. It'll be over before 11. It'll be that kind of game.
Here's my tip for you people out here. Detroit gonna cover these games this year. So make your money. I got Detroit to cover, hit the over. It's the exact same thing as last week. Aaron Rodgers comes out, they probably get up 35-10. Detroit pours on 2 to 3 garbage time touchdowns. Maybe get the ball with a chance to win in the end. They won't, but they'll cover. I'll take Packers to win 35-25. 35-25. So yeah, backdoor.
I'm going Packers in the over. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and show who he is. He's been hearing all you people talking about
He gonna cover the spread by himself.
Yes, and he's going to rein it on. He ain't going to stop, which will get me my over.
All right, but I guess that's it for this week. Wish me luck. Going to see the Giants play. Hopefully they win on my birthday.
That's gonna be hard to watch.
Anything else to look forward for the MVP race? So who's the leading MVP
Kyle
candidate right now?
Chandler Jones should be both, but I think if we're gonna leave the MVP, if we're gonna count winning and all that stuff, most impressive, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was absolutely unbelievable. He absolutely ripped apart a Tennessee defense that isn't expected to be good, but a Tennessee team that's supposed to be good. And Kyler Murray made them look like they didn't belong on the field with him. So Kyler Murray could be your Week 1 MVP.
Matthew, keep it going. Matthew Stafford leading in the clubhouse. Keep it going. Eric?
I'm going to go with Kyler. I mean, total TDs 5 in the game. That's for Week 1. That's Week 1 MVP.
All right, and then bold prediction for this week.
That's something I didn't have. Oh, well, you already know my bold prediction, my lock of the week. The Raiders are going to go on the road, win the tough game in Pittsburgh. Like this, it'll definitely. People are going to be talking on Monday, like, man, why do the Raiders always beat the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's what we're going to be talking about on Monday.
Eric?
I know they're only playing the Jets, but there's going to be more people knowing that Mac Jones is the franchise quarterback for New England.
All right, and I'm going to rock with my pick since I made the pick. Tennessee Titans get off the schneid. Over 100 for Julio, over 100 for A.J. Brown, over 100 for Derrick Henry. They get the trifecta going, and Mike Vrabel's chewing into people's asses, gets in their heads, and that gets it going. But I think that'll wrap it up for tonight. Enjoy your football this week. We'll see you back next week to discuss how the games went for Week 2.